Welcome to Faith on Film with Isaac Hernandez and Holly McClure. Keeping you informed on faith and family entertainment.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Faith on Film. I will be flying solo today. Holly is on assignment there for Capernaum Studios today. And by the way, if you are ever in the Dallas-Fort Worth area on vacation or on business or whatever, and you haven't seen the studios, you haven't been to Capernaum Studios, I would highly suggest you go and take a look. It's only about, I'm going to say 45 minutes or to an hour from the Dallas area. Capernaum Studios, of course, is the place where The Chosen Season 1 and part of Season 3 were filmed. So going there is a lot of fun. You get to see all the places where they shot the series. You get to see where Jesus walked, well, where the actor playing Jesus walked. But it's a great place to go. So just make your plans to go and check it out, and I'm sure you will enjoy it. But today we're going to be taking a bit of a journey to Mount Sinai, or at least several places where they believe Mount Sinai is. My guest today has created a great film series called Patterns of Evidence, and we're going to talk to him today and find out all about his latest film, which will be coming out in theaters here in the next few days. Patterns of Evidence, Journey to Mount Sinai II. So hey, let's take a look at the trailer, and then we'll come right back with our guest.
I'm investigative filmmaker Tim Mahoney, and my investigation continues for the true location of Mount Sinai. Follow me and Exodus Explorers on a search for more biblical evidence.
These are the 12 stones?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
At this place, something very important happened.
There was so much evidence. It felt like I walked into something that was 3,500 years old, undisturbed.
The characteristics of Mount Sinai described in the Bible match the characteristics of a volcano exactly.
How could Moses have ascended a mountain into an active volcanic eruption?
When Moses fled, he went to Midian. Why haven't scholars looked in Midian in Saudi Arabia?
Because they can't. That's why.
What risk would these Exodus Explorers be willing to take to prove the Bible?
After 5 years, he made a desperate decision.
Yes, he made a desperate decision.
That just kind of poisoned the well for everyone else. They need to do scientific work in the area, and they put fences up and keep people away.
This Jeep roared up, and 3 desert policemen jumped out, and these guys are waving these AK-47s right in the faces of my children and just screaming, "Get out of here."
We can't get into the area, but we can see what we need to see through the fence.
They stumbled upon something that was pretty unique.
Is this the holy altar where God made a covenant with the nation of Israel?
If they didn't use it for sacrificing animals, what else would you use it for?
Once I realized what this site was, I dropped to my knees.
Have they found the mountain of God where Moses received the 10 Commandments?
Why would you go to church every week? Why would you pray? Why would you look forward to the future if the whole foundation of what you are doing this for is fiction?
This is some of the most amazing, awe-inspiring, foundational, miraculous acts of the Lord throughout the entire scriptures.
Join me as I conclude my 20-year search for which mountain best matches the biblical event in Patterns of Evidence, Journey to Mount Sinai, Part 2, a nationwide theatrical Fathom event May 15th and 17th. Get tickets now.
Welcome to Faith on Film, Tim. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to see you again. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, my honor to have you on. Listen, let me give you what I call a proper introduction. I know this is the first time that you're on our show, so there may be some people that don't know who you are, and I just want them to know everything about you here. So, Timothy Mahoney is an award-winning director of 6 feature films: Patterns of Evidence, The Red Sea Miracle 1 and 2, Patterns of Evidence, The Moses Controversy, Patterns of Evidence, The Exodus. Are you noticing a pattern here? Patterns of Evidence, Journey to Mount Sinai 1 and 2, which is what we'll be talking about today mostly, which is releasing in theaters on May 15th and 17th. Tim is the founder of Thinking Men Films and Media, a Minneapolis, Minnesota based international documentary and publishing company. Boy, I got through that one, didn't I?
You did, yeah.
Oh, Tim, so listen, now we're going to be talking, of course, about Patterns of Evidence, Mount Sinai II, which is your second one of the two. But before we really get going with that, why don't you give us more of a bird's eye view of the whole Patterns of Evidence series, which obviously there's 6 of them, and why you've chosen that as your mission in life.
You know, I think I had at the time no idea that this would become a mission in my life. But as I look back on what happened with the making of these films, I can see that I believe that a lot of us have a calling that we're created for. And a lot of my interest in history and archaeology, investigations, I think if anyone likes to do investigations and love to watch that kind of, solving a mystery, I think that was sort of what I was interested in. And this event of the Bible, when I first heard about the first evidences, it was somebody who said, hey, there's chariots on the bottom of the Red Sea from Pharaoh's army that they're looking for. They're diving for them. And I was like, what? That's crazy, that there could be, in coral encrusted chariot wheels.
Right.
And I thought that was really intriguing. And that was sort of the first I heard about it. And then the second part was that they think that Mount Sinai is in Saudi Arabia, and there's evidence for that. And that then became another compelling part of this investigation. And so, yes, in 2002, I first began this investigation. I felt this calling to be a filmmaker. I just didn't know what that looked like. I had worked with other filmmakers and trying to help promote films. I owned my own ad agency. I made lots of TV commercials and videos. And I was like, I feel like I really want to make a movie, but I'm not sure what it is and how I would do that. And I got started with actually working with a company called Grizzly Adams Productions. And they made a TV special. I brought it to them on the Bible Code. Chuck Sellier and David Balsinger, they were kind of the guys who did a lot of television films, and I was able to work with them developing Secrets of the Bible Code. It went on national television in the 90s, and I was a co-producer on that, helped to bring the money in, and I filmed some of the scenes and all the host segments. So that was sort of the beginning, and then I was looking for something else, and then that heard about the whole Exodus and searching for chariot wheels, and that brought me in then in 2002 this investigation.
I remember Chuck and David. They were very good friends of mine. They always treated me really well. Both have passed away, and I have to admit I really miss them.
Yeah, absolutely. They could have seen kind of their influence on me, and what it's turned into.
Yeah. Now, some would say we're supposed to accept what the Bible says by faith. If God said Jonah was swallowed by a big fish, we don't need to know what kind of fish it was or anything like that. And yet here you are providing a lot of proof of some of the things perhaps that are mentioned in the Bible. Why do you think that proof needs to be provided?
Well, one of the things that we're seeing, and it's very, it's documented that there's a number of people that said that since we haven't found any evidence for the Bible, it's a myth. So you would say, well, no, I believe it by faith. But there's, you send your son or daughter or your grandchildren go off to college, they go to a class on Bible. They think they're going to get, the Bible, but what they're going to get is the Bible's a myth. And story after story, I've heard this. And so what I was able to do, and Dr. Norman Geisler, who is an apologist, when he saw our film, he said, Tim, you've done something that we've never been able to do. By using this technique of a scientific approach, patterns of evidence, we were able to actually say, well, what does the Bible say? And can we find a pattern in history? And the thing about investigations is they're trying to look for a particular time in history where they might see something. And what a patterns of evidence film does is knowing that dating, or what's also called chronology, is determined by someone at one particular time, and then from then everything builds upon it. Well, if they don't find something at that time, then they say it didn't happen. And what we did is we said, let's revisit this question. Let's look at what the pattern is, and can we see the pattern in the archaeology? And that's where this film just exploded with an amazing pattern of evidence. Sequentially, by the way, the pattern has to also be in the sequence. So then I started using that technique. I felt that the next films that I would make would be following in this. It's kind of like Star Wars. Star Wars, I believe that they knew that they were going to have a series of films, and so what do you call it? Well, in many ways, Patterns of Evidence, we put a colon there, and we said the Exodus, Patterns of Evidence, the Moses controversy, Patterns of Evidence, Red Sea 1 and 2, and now here we are, Patterns of Evidence, Journey to Mount Sinai. I knew that in this investigation, since I started it in 2002, I have filmed all over. I've been to Jordan and Israel multiple times, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, all throughout Europe and throughout the United States, interviewing scholars, looking at evidence, and I just knew we had gotten into an enormous investigation. And that's the reason why the films are called Patterns of Evidence, and then what the subtitle is.
I see. Now, because of this show that we do, I, of course, get that opportunity to watch some of these films that come out before they come out. that's the advantage of this show, right? But I did get to see Patterns of Evidence 2, or I should say, the Journey to Mount Sinai II, and found it very compelling. I mean, I so much enjoyed watching it. But there was one particular thing I really liked, and that is that you would apparently there are three thoughts of which mountain it might really be. Am I correct in that?
Yes. Well, in each film, there's two Journey to Mount Sinai's. The first one had three. Okay. The second one has three. So I'm looking at traditional locations closer to Egypt, and then this next film, and they're independent of each other. As you probably saw, you didn't miss anything. But if you watch the next one, you're going to get a much fuller understanding of another viewpoint. So in this particular one, yes, we're looking at three mountains. One of them is called Har Karkum, which is in Israel, and the other one is called Mount Bedar, which is further south. It's a former volcano. And then there's Jebel Alaz, which is a mountain that I was interested in 2003, and actually visited that location officially. And so those are the three mountains that we're investigating in this new investigation.
All right. So here's what I enjoyed was that you would give information on one of them and the patterns on that one, and I would say, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's the one. And then you would come up with a second one, and I would go, oh, wait a minute. No, this is the one now. Not the other one, it's this one. Then you would come up with a third one, and you totally had me captured. The interest was there because I'm like, now I got to know which one it really is because they all make sense. And you have this card. I found that very interesting because you're bringing the audience into participating with you. You have this card where there it is, where people would kind of put whether they think this one or what level, I guess, of convincing they've got for each one. Explain to us that a little bit, because I found that very exciting and interesting.
When I was making the film, I thought the thought came to me: what if I created a scorecard? And so the mountains are listed up here. And then these are different patterns that we would look for as we work our way down. We've got the journey to the mountain, campsites and wildernesses, travel speed. Then we've got the land of Midian. Where is the land of Midian? Then we've got the backside of the wilderness. Moses went to the backside of the wilderness for this mountain. And attributes, there should be a large plain, enough water. There should be a stream, a cave, because later on, the cave is mentioned in the Bible. So these are, and then there's artifacts, and then there's bonus material. So it was so full of context that I felt that people needed some help. And that's the reason why we created the scorecard. And so if they go to our website, patternsofevidence.com, they're going to be able to download that scorecard. And then there's Bible verses. This is a multi-page document, and it's a PDF. There's Bible verses. Why this is great is that you could download this, have your Bible study group, watch, go see this movie. We're going to be in theaters nationwide, May 15th and 17th, which is why we're talking about it right now. But then after that, it's going to be available to a lot of people as well, through us, through Patterns of Evidence. But the Patterns of Evidence scorecard, you can download that, and your Sunday school class, your Bible study group, your homeschool group, this is a great asset. It's a great tool. And right now, Isaac, I think the issue for a lot of people is you started this question is, why is it important that we, we don't just accept all this by faith? Well, one reason is that there's a lot of unbelievers there.
Right.
And we're showing a pattern, a convincing pattern, that this isn't just a fairy tale. Not only that, but that this pattern works its way through history. We're going to see more and more evidences of the Bible as we move forward in the investigation. And what it does for a lot of people, I asked this one man one time, I was at a wedding reception, and he had just seen the Exodus film. And I said, he goes, "Oh, I really appreciate what you've done." And I said, "Well, what has it done for you?" And he said, "It's made me bold." And I thought, well, that's very interesting. He became more bold in his faith, just in sharing it. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten thousands of emails and comments of how this has encouraged so many, many people. And not only that, it equips people when young people, when they go off to college, and the professor says there's no evidence for this. If you have the courage, raise your hand and say, "Excuse me." And guess what? That's exactly what happened. We had a student that came up to me, and she was at a college, and it was actually a quote unquote Christian college, and they were telling the students in the Bible class that these events didn't really happen. Wow. And she had just converted to Christianity. She came from Africa, and she said, "Well, why in the world did I become a Christian if none of this is true?" And she went back to her dorm. She was very, very upset. And she told one of the other students what was going on. And that student said, "Oh, you need to see Patterns of Evidence." And at that time, we were on Netflix. And she said, "What's that?" And she spent the whole night. And she went through the film, and she made lots of notes. She went back to her class and talked to her professor. And she pointed her finger at him, as my understanding. And she says, "You are wrong." She said, "There is a pattern of evidence. You need to see this pattern of evidence for the Bible." And he said, "What's that?" And you know what? The good news was that this professor took it to heart. He watched the movie, and he changed his class, and he changed the test. So there you go. That's an example of possibly saving someone from walking away from their faith.
Yep, absolutely. Now, I don't need this evidence to believe, but I really like it and I enjoy watching it because I'm a very curious person, and I do just kind of want to see what happened, see where things are at, see not to see if they're true, but just to satisfy my curiosity, I suppose. But I'm glad there's something much deeper than just my curiosity that this series is accomplishing. Now, I'm glad you mentioned about where they can see it afterwards, because I know it's going to release in theaters this May 15th and 17th, I believe it is.
Yeah, it's a nationwide Fathom event, and people can go to patternsofevidence.com. They can get the scorecard. They can download the scorecard. They can also get tickets, and that'll take them to the Fathom website, and they can put their zip code in and see if the theater is how close it is, where it is near them.
Okay, now this show lives on forever. You know how it is now with streaming. These shows will live on forever. I always say, even after the rapture, I may be gone, but the shows will continue. So I'm glad to hear that if they watch this show after that Fathom event, they'll still be able to catch it a little later on a streaming platform, and they can just go to your website and find out how, right?
Right. And absolutely. And they can also sign up to become a thinker. We have these weekly thinker updates, and we are doing, if you're interested in the Bible, archaeology, apologetics, if you're interested in having more of a, I'll just say, a thinking approach to faith, these thinker updates are great. You can sign up. We'll send you a free email. We also have a YouTube subscription where we've got lots of videos on YouTube, and we have podcasts now, Patterns of Evidence podcasts, and we're just continuing to expand in different platforms. You can go to Facebook and follow us on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, and we're just making this content available to a lot of people. It's I think been very, very encouraging for so many to basically, like you said, there's a lot of things we don't have evidence for, but we have a sense that the Holy Spirit is coming in and made our sense of our belief solidified because we've had an experience with the Lord. But there are some things that there is evidence for, and people are saying there's not. And that's what we're doing is I take a very neutral approach, and I say, okay, so I interview atheists and agnostics, mainly agnostics that I've interviewed, as well as people on a spectrum of faith, right? And there's a lot of different opinions about how these events might have happened. So this, investigative approach shows multiple points of view. So we've got multiple points of view, and in that, people are able to form an opinion. I don't know, Isaac, if you had that happen where after you saw the different points of view, you were able to possibly, look at that and go, okay, I've got more information than other investigations where it's only one point of view.
Yeah.
So I've moved into multiple ways to see something and then say, okay, you can decide. And in this film, which I haven't done before, I basically am I'm telling the audience, okay, this is the reason why I favor one particular mountain.
Right.
And I show my card at the very end. And then I'm taking out this film focuses on praise at the end, because the Israelites were to come to the mountain and worship God. And so what I've done is I've actually gotten a choir together, and I pulled out the guitar, and we're going to end with 3 songs in worship to God, because that's what I believe the Israelites, that's why we were created. We were created to worship God. And they do that at Mount Sinai, and I said, hey, why don't we end the film this way? And so I think it's going to be I know it's the right thing that I was supposed to do when I ended the film at this time.
I agree. I don't know if you know this, but I was a worship leader at a mega church for 10 years. So worship is very important to me. And I have seen you guys at ICVM conference after, the day is over, you guys all get together and just start worshiping. And that is fantastic. One of these days I'll have to join you on that. Okay. What is beyond this particular patterns of evidence now? Is there another area that you're going to tackle? Maybe, I don't know, Noah's Ark, the Ark. Oh man, this one would be awesome. The Ark of the Covenant.
Well, what I did is I have outlined, I have a writing partner, Steve Law. He and I have outlined the whole Bible. And I should probably say there's parts of it we haven't completely gotten into in the earlier part, but yes, I think that Noah's Ark is coming, what happened before the flood, the Tower of Babel. Next, though, what we do have in the can, a lot of footage, is what we would call the Covenant and the Conquest. And the Covenant includes the Ark of the Covenant, the building of the tabernacle, what happened at the mountain, because the Israelites were there for 1 year, and then they went to the land, and then they were faced with giants. Who are these giants? Where did they come from?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is there any evidence for giants? And it just opens up so many things. We also then will have the wanderings. There's new evidence on where they wandered, where Kadesh Barnea is. So I've already filmed a lot of that. And then we're going to move into the conquest, Jericho, the cities that were destroyed, then moving on to Mount Ebal and Gerizim, where now in the last year or so, they found this curse inscription that's big news. They actually found this curse tablet, and we're going to be talking about that, and we're showing that and showing where this happened. It happened exactly at the location the Bible tells us it would have happened at. They found this tablet. It's very old, and it has a very early form of Hebrew, things that people never expected. And so there's so much. There's also these pillars at at Shechem, where that's right between the valley where they were supposed to do the blessings and the curses. When Joshua brought all the Israelites back to the land in the promised land, they basically renewed the covenant that they had, and that generation basically, and this is where you have the famous line where Joshua says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." They had to make a decision. All these families had to make a decision when they went into the land. This was their inheritance. This was the land that God had given them, and they were going to take it because it was actually theirs all along. God had given them that proportion. And so there's a lot of life lessons that we can learn about this as well that I'm learning along the way. And so when you say, is there more to come? Well, by God's grace, there's more to come. We have a foundation now where we raise the money for the films, and we have a vision for them. And as I had prayed about after the first film, I said, well, what do we do now? And I felt that God said, cast the vision. So I've developed, it's all laid out. And we're just trusting God for resources, which means money. And sometimes it's people, and sometimes it's more scholars and people to come along to be a part of each film. And so that's basically, where we're at with that.
All right. Well, folks, I highly encourage you that if you're watching this before May 15th, get those tickets and go see it at the theater. If you're watching this much later, then definitely go to the website and make sure and watch this. It's beautiful. It's the scenery, the cinematography is amazing. And of course, all the information is just very compelling. Tim, thank you so much for being with us today, man.
Oh, thank you, Isaac. It's great to be on the show again.
You bet. Folks, we'll be right back.
Where, madam, do you get your facts?
It's in your journal, sir. It is all in your journal.
Some would have you to believe today that all of this is the work of chance and not that of divine providence.
His Lordship said that you are to insist that the governor send you with a letter addressing Mr. Christopher Guest.
They butchered him in front of his wife and children so that no provincial nor Indian not loyal to the French would dare venture to go where you and the governor would have us go.
Many in the House believe your trip to the French Commandant to be theatrics, to induce public sentiment both here and abroad for war.
How, George, do you respond to this indictment that some would say to be unreasonable reasoning in the age of reason, sir?
Welcome back. I hope you really enjoyed our conversation today with Tim Mahoney, the producer, director of Patterns of Evidence, Journey to Mount Sinai II, and really all the Patterns of Evidence series movies. Remember, if you are watching this program before May 15th, then get out there to the theater and just take a look at this great movie, Patterns of Evidence, Journey to Mount Sinai II. But if you're watching this much later, as I always say, these programs just go on forever. So if you're watching it a month, 2 months, a year, several years after that date, then go to their website and just look for the series of movies. You will really enjoy them. Well, next week we'll be back with another episode of Faith on Film. I certainly hope you will join us. Take care.
Write to us at faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. That's faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Faith on Film TV. Also, go to our YouTube channel, Faith on Film TV, and hit the subscribe button and the bell for notifications on our latest Faith on Film shows.